Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I know that you are not a stranger to for our programming. You've been with us and across several other programs before, live reach chat, and a couple of years with the Under the Sea exhibition, a couple of other things. And this year, you were the category winner for connecting the people and the ocean with Garden of Venus. So, welcome back. And for those of our new visitors or people that are looking at this exhibition that might be looking at your stuff for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name is Meghan Jones. I am an artist and an author. I've also recently branched out into some graphic design, and I work as a podcast assistant on the Deep Sea podcast. So I sort of have this well-rounded excitement going on.
Yeah. And so Garden of Venus, which is the painting that's right behind you, focuses on deep sea invertebrates. So can you tell us what drew you to that subject specifically, and what did you want viewers to feel when they encountered this particular piece?
So this piece is part of a collection that is traveling with work I have done with the Unseen Ocean Collective. The Unseen Ocean Collective is a group that I co-founded in 2025 with Laura Beckman, who's a marine biologist, Nilanjana Das, who's an artist, and Kirsten Keller, who's another artist. And our work was in Juneau, Alaska, Spokane, Washington, and it's continuing on to Hatfield Marine Science Center in Oregon. And the work is based on footage that was taken by NOAA off the coast of Alaska in 2023. And it was these incredible coral and sponge gardens, and then tons and tons of invertebrates. There's some fish in there too. They're beautiful. But specifically a rock that was seen, I believe it was the Gumby Ridge footage. And Gumby Ridge is a really special piece of footage for me because it was actually taken on my birthday in 2023. So it was before I was doing any of this work. And so it has sort of a magical quality for me where I'm like, wow, this was happening on my birthday before it even existed, And so then I was using the footage. So it's a rock. You can sort of see behind me. It's this big, beautiful rock, and it's just absolutely covered with brisingid, Venus flytrap anemones, brittle stars, regular anemones, and there's even a little tube worm hiding in there as well. So I think that it's just incredible, and I think it looks a lot like a garden. That's kind of what I want it feel like, as if you're out walking and you're out in the environment and you just sort of come across this rock and you're like, wow, it's completely covered with all of this life.
What was the most fun to paint? I know there's lots of things in there, but
the Venus flytrap anemones, I just love them. You can sort of see the one here by my shoulder. I wonder maybe if they're like singing or screaming. They're like, ah, that's what I think about when I'm painting them. And I love how like knobbly and bumpy they are on the outside of them. And then they have this really strong, like linear, the tentacles, and then how it goes into the mouth. And then there's a couple. So like this one has more green on the outside and that has more pink. It's that green and orange combination that I find very attractive. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Is that your favorite color combination?
I mean, it's one of them. It's definitely. I kind of can't pick a favorite. I couldn't pick a favorite color to save my life because I could no sooner be a favorite child. I mean, it's just the favorite one of the day. So
good. Okay, so obviously the category that your painting won was connecting people and the ocean, but you were also people, right? And so how do you feel connected to this painting if we look at it through this category, right? Is there something that you feel jumps out to you personally, apart from video being from like, your birthday and having some really fun parts to paint? Is there something else that you might think, maybe this part like connect with this painting that maybe a couple of the others don't have because of either colors, composition, or subject matter?
I think I've never personally seen a painting that depicts brazingids, which are these sea stars that have these tons and tons of spines on them.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's something really novel, whereas we've seen, I've seen paintings with anemones before. I haven't seen a lot of paintings with brittle stars either, but they don't feature quite as prominently in this image. For me, just the overall composition of this image, the colors I think are really appealing. I tried to bring it into a very bright and colorful, appealing space that was like being in a garden. It's colors that we can really relate to. We've talked about this on the Perceiving the Deep Reef chat, but I'm really fascinated with the light. I'm in the deep ocean because there is none, right? But it's the light that we have to bring there. And so I think there's a lot of place to play in that space to find out what it could look like, pulling out sort of these colors that maybe are there, they're maybe not, but I mean, that's the art, right? The artistic interpretation.
So your work now lives in two forms, right? As fine art, like the painting behind you, and you also have an illustration for a children's book that's coming out this year. How did those two models of making inform each other? Is the intention behind them the same? And how do you end up picking what goes, into, an exhibition versus a book that it's illustrated for children? Or is there a difference? I don't know.
Right. I mean, it really, all the work is created with communication in mind. And so it's this intersection between really revealing the environment, but making it beautiful. And those have to kind of walk hand in hand. And so while what I create is definitely not scientific illustration in any way, shape, or form, that is not what this is. It is all about connecting people and communicating with them just how beautiful the environment looks to me through my eyes and what I see when I'm investigating it. When I'm creating when I created the illustrations for the children's book, it's the content of those was really dictated by the writing, right? And so because the book, which is releasing in September 1st, it really goes to 7 different deep sea habitats. It's starting from the shallow end, it goes to the deepest. And then so it's really picking sort of the organisms that I felt like were the most representative of that habitat, but also the most appealing for children. Something that looked really great on a page, something that I could put together, and then organisms that were maybe had a relationship, right? So the Submarine Canyons page has bubblegum coral, but it has brittle stars, and they have a relationship. And so that was a nice way. It was an associate situation, and that was a nice way to talk about it. So trying to put as many illustrations to show the kids some of these relationships in the painting as well. So that was the book. It wasn't that different with the shows that we did for the ocean. The difference is I wasn't doing the writing. So Laura was doing the writing. So I had a little more free reign with choosing a composition that I felt really fit the subject matter and was showing a wide variety of organisms from that area. The NOAA footage from Seascape, Alaska, they uncover these incredible sponge and coral gardens, right? And so then it's trying to show just as much of that as possible and the variety. And then Laura would take the paintings and she wrote these beautiful info cards for us, which are on our website if you're interested in reading them. They were part of our exhibit. So they're kind of the same. I'm kind of always trying to communicate. I'm always trying to really follow the message of the communication and the research to talk with people through the work.
And I mean, I know a little bit because I've heard you talked about this before, but you also saw firsthand how children interacted with your paintings, right? At the exhibition.
Yeah, so as part of our work that we did in Spokane, we were really, really grateful to receive a Spokane grant, an arts grant, a SAGA grant, and it funded a lot of really cool stuff. One of the things was 13 field trips where we were able to bring 13 grade school classes to the gallery, and which was terrific fun. It was very stressful. There were a couple of almost oopses, and that's okay. Everything's fine. And then they went to the gallery. We did a scavenger hunt there, which was
Oh, how fun.
really fun, where they had to find all different organisms in the artwork. And then they went across the street to the Children's Discovery Center, which is like the science center. And
Mhm.
Laura did a talk for them, and then they got to play at the science center. So it was like this really great field trip combination. And in the week since, I've heard from at least 3 different adults saying, you did the field trip and my kid came home and said this to me. And I was like, oh my God. So it was really lovely. You know, I want to
Oh,
be a marine biologist, or shrimp are my favorite animal. So it was great.
yeah. And then this is the exhibition that's traveling. Do I have that right? Like it's going
Yes.
to other places as well?
Yeah, so it's going to the Hatfield Marine Science Center, and the opening for that is the very end of July, so maybe
Mhm.
July 30th. It's a Thursday, and it will be there until December. So
Oh,
it's
cool.
there for quite a long stretch. We're not doing any field trips or talks with that, but 3 of us will be present in person. I'll be there, Millie will be there, and Kirsten will be there. Laura, unfortunately, can't make it over from Sweden again, but we'll miss her, but we'll carry on.
Yes, you guys got it.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. I mean, obviously communication is part of the way you're always thinking about it, right? Whether it's in your book format or in your painting, it feels like it's a very much part of your research the same way that you mentioned color and light.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess another question that I have for you is how do you know? Because you say, right, like it's imagining sometimes some of the colors of these environments sometimes because there's no light. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you choose what colors for what creatures or invertebrates?
I'd say about 75% of it is pretty accurate. I
Mhm.
mean, I like to add a lot of different colors in there. I am really interested in Impressionism. I really love works by Monet. I love work by Pissarro. And they use just a ton of colors and then allow your eyes to blend those colors, right?
Mhm.
So I really sort of work within that. So 75% of it, I would say, is pretty accurate. And then the last 25% is making it function as a painting. So it just becomes like, okay, fine. If you want a photograph, you have one. What do you need a painting for? So the painting needs to be better. It needs to
Mhm.
be more engaging. It needs to be more appealing. It needs to grab the viewer in a different way than that photograph. Because we're just not all looking at deep sea photographs. Not all of us. I
Mhm.
mean, we should really recommend. But we're not all looking at deep sea photographs all the time, right? So the painting is trying to get a different audience.
Mhm. That's wonderful. And then I've heard you talk a little bit about this, but can you tell us a little bit about your interest in light with in relationship to these environments and your paintings? Because I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, so I paint within modern impressionism, and impressionism as a movement was really concerned with light and color movement. Color was quite subjective in a lot of
Mhm.
this work, and my color can be quite subjective, which means that subjective meaning that you're choosing it based on an emotional choice. Objective means that you're choosing it based on a visual choice, or you're trying to make it
Yeah.
more realistic. So I'd say like that last 25%, it's more subjective, and it's just sort of more how I feel it should look.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to me that we can only see these habitats with this really intense lighting. I mean, and if you talk to any artist, they're going to
Yeah.
say to you, yes, well, I would really like to use natural light. I mean, it's what we all strive for. We love photographs with natural light, this gentle sort of sideways diffuse light, or sunset photos, or sunrise photos when the light is really gentle. We all really like that. That's really, really appealing. And it's just not possible in the deep
Mhm.
sea. We have these harsh artificial floodlights. There's absolutely no possibility of anything else happening. And it's just embracing that and sort of drawing on some artistic principles like chiaroscuro, which is very high contrast, dramatic use of lights and darks, really diving into those shadows and trying to put a ton of color in them. I
Mhm.
don't really use a lot of black in my paintings, actually, and I mix color all the time. Like I do not under any circumstances pre-mix a color. I'm constantly like grabbing and shifting and grabbing and shifting and grabbing and shifting. And if I shift it too far and it's the wrong color, I find out where it could go on the painting. Then I move to a different part of the painting and I use it up, and then I shift it again, and I figure out where it's going to go. So the whole painting just has this cacophony of colors all over the place. And sometimes at the end, you have to figure out how to pull it down a little bit, because it's just gotten really out there. And they're okay, how do I like pull it back together and make it more cohesive? And then that's fun too. So it's living. It's very organic for me.
So how long, I mean, not that you have to have like a time in mind, but how long does it take you to create your paintings? Because they're also not small, right? They're quite a good size of a canvas.
So like I know exactly how long because I need to, because I love deadlines. I thrive on them. I actually really crave them because I find them super motivating. So a 16 by 20 takes me a week. A 24 by 24 takes me 2 weeks. A 24 by 36 takes me 3 weeks. And the 36 by 48 takes me a month.
Oh, wow.
So, and then, I mean, you know, there's a little flex in there sometimes if like kids are sick or whatever. But that if I'm like at it and I can focus, then that's where I can do.
Do you work with one painting at a time, or do you go back and forth?
I do one painting at a time. 100%. And then once I get until I'm like, maybe I get really bored in the last 10% of the painting. Really bored. I am a new ideas person, and like I absolutely finish everything I've started as far as that's concerned. But the last 10%, I'm like, okay, this is really boring. So then that's when I start thinking about the next one. And then it's like, oh yeah. And then that just like plow through the 10%, and then I'm into the next one. So I can't plan too far in advance is the other thing. So, cause like sorry. Yeah.
No. Go ahead.
I was just going to say for Oregon, actually, I haven't even told my other collective members this yet. So like, but I was supposed to propose everything in advance so the curator could see it, and I proposed 5, which aren't going to happen. That's fine. 3 are going to happen. 2 are what I said. 1 is completely not what I said, because I was so bored by the time I got through 2. I was like, I can't do the last 3. Those have been planned for months. That's like terribly boring. So anyway, surprise, Laura, I'm sorry.
I mean, but then that means that you'll probably find something that's more, if it's more exciting for you, then that comes through, right? And then it's probably going to be more engaging for others as well.
Yeah, sometimes if I think about them too long, it's like I figure them out. Like, you know, I think about the imagery and I'm like, why? Oh, because part of the enjoyment and the excitement and the problem solving is thinking about the image and thinking about how I'm going to compose it and do the colors and paint it and the process. But then if I dwell in that space too long, I'm like, well, figure that out. Time for something new, you know?
So I also know that you do a lot of research before you start on your painting, right? So how does that, like, do you have, walk me a little bit through what it's like in your mind. Like, do you go all in through your research and then until you have an idea what you want, you do the painting? Do you kind of, you know, go back and forth composition wise? And then once you kind of have that in your mind, then you like go all in? How does that work for you?
It kind of depends on the final application. So for the book, that was this ridiculous situation where I proposed a book. I didn't have a manuscript written. I had a couple of example paintings, and I kind of sort of knew what I wanted to do. So I sent him the example paintings and just a overview of like maybe sort of what I would do. And he's like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. 8 months I got, huh? And then so I painted 16 paintings in 8 months, and I had to paint the painting and write the blurb hand in hand during the same 2-week period, because that's all I had for each one. So it was like 2 weeks, figure out what you're going to do the research, paint the painting. They happened at the same time. I would paint in the morning and write in the afternoon. And that was just like every 2 weeks, bam, 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 next one. I don't think I'd do it that way again if I could help it. It was a lot. I do want to do another book. I'm hoping to use all of the imagery that I created for the Unseen Ocean shows and do an Alaskan deep sea book. But thankfully it'll be like the paintings are already done. So then I can really curate the content of the book, making sure I hit all of the necessary, important, points, communication points, but then pairing it with already created work.
Yeah.
And then probably, I was thinking enhancing the work with more scientific drawings that really show, because I want kids to really see the structure of some of these things that aren't necessarily obvious in my paintings, because the paintings just can't go that detailed, and that's okay. That's not what it's for. But so that's sort of like that. But when I'm planning something, I really think about it like almost like branding. You have to sort of line up all the points, so you have this very clear message that goes from point A to point B, and how does everything slot into there. It's a little bit like when I used to design knitting patterns, and you have to have all your materials in order. You need to know your sizes. You need your gauge, which is your math. And then you have to work all your pattern pieces to get your final thing, and it's very step by step. There's creativity in there too. But I think it's better with a little bit of structure.
Yeah. So a little bit more systematic before the free flowing can come in. I mean, so I was very curious, because it is the paintings that you did were on Alaskan and the Alaskan dives, and that makes me wonder, does that mean there will be other collections based in other parts of the world, and what those
yes, maybe.
Look like?
So I mean, what I can say is that we're currently planning our 2027-2028 season. I don't want to reveal too much because nothing's finalized, and we're applying for a bunch of opportunities, so I don't want to be too open. But I can say that it's two locations in the world and two habitats we've never dealt with before. So yes.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
So this is a good spot then for the question of, what are the upcoming projects that you have that you can tell us about?
Ooh, okay. So what's first? So our show in Oregon, obviously. So if you're in the area or close to Newport, Oregon, we'd love to see you. Next, Laura and I have been accepted to present at the Commotion Conference, which is I wrote it down just a second, International Marine Science Communication Conference in Bergen, Norway in September. So I'll be there for a week, which is super fun. What else? I was actually asked to contribute graphics to a deep sea paper that's coming out. So that's coming up. I can't give any more details. It's kind of a secret thing, but it's pretty fun. And then I do want to finish up some more work on Alaska. So like what I didn't finish for the deadline for Oregon, because I know I'm just going to finish this one big painting that I'm doing. But after that, I might be working on some more work for that. And I was asked to do some illustrations for a thesis paper. So that would be kind of cool. And I'm like, what else should I write down? No, I think that's it. And then secret 27-28 stuff. Yeah.
So, just a tiny little thing here and there.
I gotta stay busy, man. Like, I'm just, I like to go. I like to find the edge and then push past it, and then the edge is further. So keep going.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, but they all sound like interesting and engaging things, and they're all, I mean, you mentioned how you get bored. I see the variety of interests kind of and all the different types of opportunities coming up, which is exciting.
I think it is. I love it, and I love collaborating with people. Like, as much as I enjoy my own work, the collaborations are even more fun. And I like the combination of the two, and I can collaborate with people and communicate and work on ideas. And then when I get totally tired, because I do get tired, I'm like, oh, that's enough talking. And then I disappear into my studio and I paint for a couple hours. I'm like, much better. So it's a nice balance for me.
I get that. I'm similar in that way. I can talk a lot, and then up to a point my battery just goes down, and I'm like, okay, I need to go read a book or something.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Meghan, final question.
Yes.
So I know I have asked you in the previous interview what type of deep sea creature you would like to be. In case your answer has not changed, I want to ask instead, if you could bring one deep sea creature into a children's book that hasn't gotten its moment yet, what would it be and why? And if your answer for what deep sea creature you would like to be has changed, then I would like to know too.
I want to be all of them. Not helpful. And I want to bring all of them into a children's book, which is also not helpful. I don't remember what I said last time. But I kind of would, I don't know. I kind of love them all. Maybe a grenadier. I think they're kind of chonky and hilarious. As far as bringing an organism into a children's book, I would love to do the deep sea lizardfish. It's called Bathysaurus feryx, and they're just kind of unhinged looking, like really. But I love that about them. And they have like 3 rows of teeth and these big eyes. They kind of look like they've been hit by a pan. And they're like everybody's crazy uncle. I don't know. I love them. I got to bring them in a way that's not scary though, right? Because my work is very much about like, this isn't scary. It's something super cool. So it rides the line because it has so many teeth.
Yes.
but they're beautiful. And the Feryx variety is like a very dark navy and purple, and then sort of like really bright turquoise and teal highlights. And I just think it's really cool. I would love that. So
that was about to ask actually, like how would you paint them? But it sounds like you've already thought about how that would go.
Oh, they always catch my eye, and they have like really big scales, and I think it's really beautiful. Yeah, I know. Now I'm gonna have to figure that out. Okay.
Another to-do list.
Sure.
It's a fun one. It's a fun one.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Meghan, thank you so much for being with us here today. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. Amazing with your collective and the upcoming works and your wonderful painting. And can you remind us of the painting's name and why you named it that way so that we can close?
It's titled Garden of Venus. And part of what we were trying to do with the UOC show, Unseen Ocean Collective show, was really tie this environment into a forest, because corals and sponges are like trees in a forest, and they provide habitat and safety for just tons and tons of organisms, particularly a lot of our fisheries that are off the coast of Alaska. Those baby fish are living in these coral and sponge gardens. That's where they grow up, and that supports us too. And so it's bringing this emphasis to like, this is a forest, and we all know what happens when you cut down a forest, right? So thinking about trawling, thinking about, ripping these out of the seabed and how devastating that could be is part of our message. It was a subtle part of our message, but it was very much emphasis on these are important and they're beautiful. And I called it Garden of Venus to reference that, and then also because of the Venus flytrap anemones, and garden and Venus. So Botticelli's Venus is a very famous painting as well, and it's just sort of a little subtle reference to these things where it's like, look, these are also beautiful. And they're maybe not a very famous work of art. But maybe they could be someday. That would be really nice. Yes. So I was drawing these little, drawing these little threads and these little connections all over the place.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Meghan. We look forward to seeing what your upcoming projects will look like. We'll keep an eye out on that fabulous book that's coming out, and all the other projects that I'll add links so that we can keep track of where things are going.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Frida.
Bye.
Bye.